Hi, I'm Tom with Composite Designs. This episode we're going to show you how we build the plug for the ribs, so stick around. So these are a laser cut piece that is the actual profile of the locomotive. Laser cut at the same time as we had the bodies, so they're perfect. So what we need to do, and we're going to use these as the shape for making the rib mold. The issue is we need to notch these a little so that they sit down in and it sits flat when it's in use, because it's actually got a little flat spot there of about 1/8 of an inch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're just going to take a little bit of blue layout fluid and just mark up the edges. I'm going to go ahead and put this on, let it dry for a couple minutes, and then we'll come back using a scribe and scribe them in, and then we'll cut them to the final profile using those lines. So let's let that dry and then we'll come right back. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and let that dry, we're going to go ahead and mark these out. We're just going to take a square. I'm going to put a mark at 1/8 inch. Put another mark at 1/8 inch. Scribe the lines. Put another mark at 1/8 inch. Take our machinist square. And that right there is what we're going to need to notch. We'll take a little Dremel tool with cut-off wheel, cut that off, and then file it smooth. Okay, so now that we have our 3 pieces laid out, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could stack them all together and mill them to get your part, or to get your little notch. In our case, I think I'm just going to use a Dremel tool with a cut-off wheel to get the main part, and then I'll go in and clean it up with a file. I figure more people have that available, and my mill has a pretty complicated setup on it at the moment, so I don't want to break it down just for that. So a couple tips I have for any type of grinding material. One, definitely safety glasses. You want to use those. Ear protection is another one, and there will be sparks flying around. Make sure there's nothing flammable. The other thing and it's really important, is for 2 reasons. Not only safety, but for the quality of your work. The more comfortable you can get, so if you can rest your hand on something to steady it, or whatever, with a lot of things, the more comfortable you are, the better the job you're going to do. So in our case, I'm gonna clamp this to the table, so I have something to rest my hand up against and keep it from flopping around. So we're going to try doing it like this, and we're going to go just short of the line, because we're going to come in and we're going to clean it up with a file. So there you have it. We'll notch the rest of these, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to clean them up with a file. Okay, so we've gone ahead and cut all of our edges. Now, they don't line up perfectly, even though we tried to get as close to the line as we can, and that's to be expected. You're doing it by hand and everything like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the edge of the table here, and we're actually going to clamp them all together. And line them all up. Going to stack them. We're going to line them up by the outer edges, clamp them together, and then we're going to use a file to get them all more or less the same and clean up the marks that are left from the cutoff wheel process. Now this will take some time, but if you use a good sharp file, this is not the place to scrimp on quality. Get yourself a good set of files. We have one that's higher than the other, and that's we're just working it down. Okay, now we'll do the other side. All right, so we got both sides cleaned up. Take them apart, file off any burrs on the edge. And move on to the next step. Okay, so now that these are all cleaned up, we need a way to attach them to our backer board. So I went ahead and just roughly, with a pencil, laid out roughly where I wanted the holes to be for the screws, and then I went ahead and just with a punch prick marked them. We're going to go ahead and drill these, and then we'll countersink them for the screws. Okay, so we've gone ahead and drilled them all, and the next big step we're going to have is these have to be below the surface, because we don't want the screw head in the rib. What we're going to end up doing is countersinking them and then coming over and putting Bondo over them so that the top of the rib is flat. So the first thing we need to do is clean up these holes, get rid of any burrs, and we're going to do that with the countersink here. Just get the bit. If you have any major ones, you can run over with a file. That's another way to do it. Because we want this to sit nice and flat on our bottom baseboard. And then purely for cosmetic reasons, we're going to mark top on these, just so they're all facing the same way. And that's going to be the way we're going to want to countersink it for the screw. This you're going to want to go slow and just be very careful. You want to make sure you go deep enough that the screw head will fit in there and not raise up any. So that completes that. We're just going to deburr the top with a file. Make sure they're smooth. Then we will go ahead and wipe them all down with acetone and give them a coat of primer. And once that is done, we'll be ready to mount them to our backboard. And then do the Bondo work, and we're almost ready. Okay guys, we've gone ahead and primered these, and they are ready to get mounted to the board. We went ahead and drew some lines on the board to where we want them, and all we're going to do is we drew a line on the bottom here. We're going to line them up the way we want. Placement is good, but it's not totally critical. Pre-drill the holes. So I'll pre-drill the hole. And screw it in, making sure that the screw head is below the top of the metal piece. Okay, so they're all mounted now, and the next step is we're going to wipe off the sawdust, and then as you can see they're all countersunk. We're going to take some Bondo, fill in those holes so they're perfectly smooth. Same concept as drywall. And so we're going to go ahead and do that off camera, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to sand them smooth and primer them and build up a wall and be ready for the next step. We filled in the holes with Bondo and then proceeded to go ahead and give it a coat of primer and make a lip with MDF around the edge like we did previously. And there we go. So that completes our plug for the ribs. Tune in next time where we're going to go ahead and actually start making the molds with the fiberglass. And in the meantime, if you like these instructional videos, be sure to subscribe, check out the links below, and be sure to check out our website. I'll see you next time.